Well, we got the audition season for WGI right around the corner, or it's upon us now, I guess. It feels like it starts earlier and earlier every year.
This is like that limbo period for drumming. It's similar to when the college basketball season ends. There's like no sports anyone cares about because it's like the beginning of the season or middle season baseball, but nobody watches Major League Baseball until the playoffs anyway.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a diehard fan and just go to a random game. We're in that limbo period. This is like that equivalent until college football starts back up, or in our case, WGI. Yeah, audition season is here.
Yeah, people posting the packets, posting the dates. We just talked a few minutes ago. It seems like it happens quicker and quicker. There were some groups that like posted their audition material like while drum corps was still going on.
Yeah, I saw the Broken City packet go up in July.
Yeah.
Pretty sure when I was doing indoor, auditions never happened until about the beginning of November, end of October.
I remember when we were at Moorhead, like we went up to audition for Rhythm X, it being like right around the time that Moorhead had their annual high school band contest in like mid to late October.
Yep.
And now it's like early September, and there's groups that are like have auditions like next week.
Is it too early?
I don't know. I mean, you can really see who's going to prepare, I guess. Like if it happens real quick, boom, boom, right after DCI season, it's like, and I guess if you're hoping to get good people, then maybe they'll come audition for you instead of going somewhere else. But also, I guess if maybe you're a lower group and people have their sights set on maybe somebody that's better than you, like in a world class and you're an open class, then they may be holding out and going to those world class auditions, and they don't have a chance to come audition for you because you've already had your auditions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. So if I was a lower group, I would feel like I would wait longer personally, because I would want to get some of those people who get cut from
It's the trickle down effect, just like it happens in DCI. Yeah. People go to groups like the top 6 groups, and not everybody makes it, obviously, and then they all trickle down to the lower cores.
There will be people
January, February
who get cut from Rhythm X, Mystique, Matrix, those places that are good enough to march in good open lines. They just weren't good enough to make the world line yet, which is fine.
Yep.
Which is kind of, I guess, leads into like audition. Like, what do you do for auditions? Like, where do you go? Who do you go for? That sort of thing. This could be a tricky process.
Yeah, definitely. Well, before we go any further, this is the Aged Out Podcast, episode 7, if you hadn't figured that out yet. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Fantini, and sitting next to me, as always, is
Evan Worrell.
So there's a risk of burnout. Because at least for me, in every competitive marching season I was a part of, by the end of that season, whether it was drum corps, high school marching band, college marching band, indoor drumline, I was burnt out. I was ready to be done with that show music, like every time. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, I just want to do this show one more time." Like, nope. Every finals I performed, whatever venue it was in, last football game, UD Arena, Lucas Oil, I walked off the field and I was like, "All right, I'm done with that.
I'm ready to go."
Yep. Next thing, please. Like, I've always been ready. And the earlier and earlier you start the season, like if auditions are in October, that's already a 6-month season, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Now, groups aren't rehearsing every weekend starting. Well, actually, some of them did starting in October. Like, they have 2 audition weekends in a row, or like an audition weekend, week off for kids to have 2 weeks to like work on the things and the comments they were given at the audition camp, bring them back. And then a lot of groups, I'm pretty sure, just start rehearsal.
We did our last year, I remember, because we did.
But that was PASIC.
We did the PASIC thing.
That was the special circumstance.
Yeah.
That was something that, and I was super burnt out by the end of that season.
We started so early.
Like, it was right around September because we had to do PASIC in November, so we had to rehearse for a while first before we got to that. But I think that could be something that...
Which is another good point, too. Like, maybe some people, if you have auditions real early, some people are, like, on the fence of whether they want to march indoor or not because they just got done marching summer this or summer that or blah, 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 high school band or drum corps, whatever the case may be. And they just finished up, and they're like, man, I just want to take a break.
Yeah, it's not removed enough.
Yeah.
There's not enough of a come-down period. It's like, you get to this climax in DCI if you marched, and you get, like, what, 3 weeks to just be a normal person and have some weekends?
Yeah.
And then, boom, you're right back into it if you want to march indoor. I think it's too early.
But I guess everybody's the competitive nature is the quicker you can get audition, the quicker you can set your line, the quicker you can start cleaning, the quicker, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a fine line.
Yeah. I get it, but you can go too far.
Yeah.
But I'm the person that thinks every drum corps should take a day off every week during tour, just to let the members' brains recalibrate and like have things soak in. Maybe let your body rest for a day. I think you'd get more efficient production out of your members if you gave. I know BD does that during move-ins.
I think that they proved that works too.
Yeah, you work smarter over harder. The human body has to have downtime. The brain and the body does.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Well, we won't get too much on that track because
right.
I think we've beaten that one.
Yeah, we've beaten that horse plenty of times. So I think the goal of today is we're going to just give some advice, just things we've picked up about auditioning for groups for those people that listen to this who are going to be auditioning here pretty soon. Like we said, there's a group in Louisville or right around it that is having their first audition next weekend, like September 9th and 10th. Mm-hmm. So for those of you that might need some advice, we're going to kind of give tidbits about what we picked up throughout the whole process, having been teachers and members. We've got some funny stories.
Yeah, some funny audition stories.
I've seen some really crazy things and hilarious things at audition stuff. So we're going to get into those things, and we'll just go from there and see where it takes us. So if you had to give a piece of advice to somebody who's auditioning for a world group for the first time or a big group, what would it be? The best piece of advice.
Don't be afraid to go drum with the people who have been in the group before. Like, if you find a vet, like if you're going to audition for snare drum and you're a new hopeful member, just go drum with those dudes. Because you're either it's going to go one of two ways. Like, they're going to realize that you're good enough, like kind of open their eyes. Because a lot of the members have a lot of say on who gets into the group. Mm-hmm. The staff always asks that. So go drum with those dudes. If you're good enough to make the line, which you either are or you aren't, that's just the way it is, then they'll see that you're good enough. Like, oh, this dude's drumming with us. He asks, like, hey, mind if I come drum with you guys? It shows initiative. Like, you're not cowering away from the moment or being too intimidated by it, which is a big thing you're being door. Or you're just not going to be good enough, which if you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And at the end of the day, you still got to drum with those dudes, and you probably got better.
Yep. And at the same time, along that same vein, don't try too hard. And I don't mean from a playing sense. I mean from don't try and shove yourself into their world too much when they're like hanging out on breaks and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've known people and heard stories. I've seen people shoot themselves in the foot by just trying too hard to fit in, basically, and coming off as annoying, or maybe annoying is the wrong word. Just it's off-putting. Yeah. When you have someone who's just trying to be super funny on purpose and just trying really hard to make you like them, mm-hmm. because you've been in the group before, or you already know you're going to be in this group because you've been like your third year or whatever. Don't try too hard. Drum with them, but do not.
I would say don't try to interject yourself into their social lifestyle. Like when I was
that's a good way to put it.
Like drum with them. Like hey, I want to drum with you. Do this, do the audition stuff, but like on breaks when they're like hanging out, cutting up, it's those guys' time to like kind of see each other again, mm-hmm. And like hang out. Like they go eat lunch. You don't have to like follow people around and eat lunch with them and eat dinner with them. Just drum with them. That's all you gotta do.
Yep, that is a big mistake I see people make a lot, because I've known of people that have been good enough to make a line they're auditioning for, but get cut because the vets are like, he's kind of weird,
or kind of rubbing us the wrong way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just do your thing, play as well as you can. Don't overdo it from the social side of things.
For sure. And I always felt like too, I guess another piece of advice, like everybody has these crazy packets and stuff, and like people have these complex exercises that are real elaborate and real long. But I feel like a lot of times too, people forget to just do the basic things leading up to auditions. Like they learn the exercises and that's it. But I always made sure that whatever the packet had, I just did like my normal routine to keep like my chops up. Like I would play just basic eights and double beat and accent tap and stuff because I wanted to keep my chops up. Because a lot of times in those auditions for those groups, they'll just throw curveballs at you. Like, I would learn as many different types of grids as I could because I remember in a couple auditions, they're like, all right, we're going to do this grid. And if you just haven't done it in a while, you may just be rusty at it.
Yep.
And if they pull that out of the bag of tricks, someone like, hey, we're going to do this, and you're not ready for it, it'd be like, uh-oh, like, I hope I don't suck at this.
Because at the end of the day, most groups, or probably every group, they really don't care what crazy hard licks you know how to play. They care whether you are a fundamentally sound drummer. Because if you are a fundamentally sound drummer, you can learn any music they put in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, like if your fundamentals are there, your accent tap, your double beat, your triplet rolls, like you'll be able to play whatever music given the time to learn it they put in front of you. Yeah, they might test your mental capacity to learn a change on the fly by throwing curveballs at you, which is valid. It's happened at every audition I've ever been at. But at the end of the day, I have never seen or heard of, and I'm sure it might have happened because I haven't been everywhere. I'm not all knowing. Somebody get cut who is a phenomenal fundamental drummer, but they weren't as good at some etude that's like a minute and a half long for the audition.
Yeah.
If you can drum, you can drum. That's the bottom line. So what you screwed up on, you broke a few times playing the etude. If I'm running an audition, I'm not really going to care about that much because you play triplet rolls really well and you know how to balance with the person standing next to you, and your accent tap is really, your hands are really relaxed when you're playing accent tap, and just the sound is consistent. Like that's what I care about, at least personally.
I think in most of the Rhythm X auditions that I had, we dipped outside the box of the exercise packet most of the time. Like, we'd just be like, all right, let's play this. All right, now let's play this. Now let's check out this exercise. I remember my first year auditioning there, we just gridded a bunch of different stuff, like flam drags. And we'd do flam drag on one, putting the flam on the second partial, third partial.
Was that when Dan Twyford was the old man? And
yeah, and there were people that were there and they were auditioning and they'd never even done that. They're like, what? You move the flame around? Like, what? And like,
that was something that I was brought up doing from a young age.
Fortunately,
we were taught from similar people.
Yeah,
and I remember getting to audition camps and even staff members, like techs, we would I was gridding on a break and I just did flam drags and then moved everything over a partial for flam drags on 2 and then did 3. And then like by the time I got past 1 to 2, they were like, even the techs were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I was like, wait.
I remember in that audition
nobody auditioning knew what it was.
That's funny. We were doing, so this I guess will be kind of our first funny audition story. But in 2010, my first year at Rhythm X, my first year auditioning and making it, I was standing next to Dan Twyford, who is just an outstanding human being. So fun. I'm glad I stood next to him. But we were doing like flam 5 on 3 or something, like starting on the diddle and putting the cheese or the flam diddle on the third partial. And we were going pretty fast too. And I remember him saying, he's like, oh yeah, I'm leaving those flams out for posterity reasons just because he couldn't do it. There's something. I was just cracking up. I was like, what?
Couldn't do it. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure he sounded fine without the flam.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing good diddles, it's fine.
But that was going to be his what? Second year in the group?
That was his second year.
Oh, yeah. He only did 2 years, didn't he?
Yeah.
Huh.
But it was funny. And then, oh man, there's so many funny stories. The first group I ever auditioned for, I didn't even do. It was West Athens Indoor. That was in 2006. They don't exist anymore, but they were just coming out.
They didn't exist at the time when it did exist.
Yeah, I think they were in Independent A or something, and I was like a junior in high school, but they had like one of those crazy exercise packets or something like that. I remember they had this shopping spree. It was like 2.5 pages long, and I was just like, it just had everything you could possibly fit in there, but I just like could not play any of it. My individual audition for that was so bad. I tried to play it way too fast. That'd be another audition tip. Don't play too fast.
Yes, play it at the speed you can play it as well as you can at.
But I tried to play that shopping spree just too fast. In the beginning of it's fine. It's just like basic things like flam drags and stuff. But when you get to the end of it, it's like a lot of inverts and like hand-to-hand flams. And I was just completely chowing it. And like I couldn't play that fast. And
don't do too much, man.
Yeah, don't try to do too much. Just try to play good. Play well.
You brought up that, we are in Kentucky. I can read good. You brought up that a crazy audition packet. I've been deterred from going to an audition for a group because their packet was so ridiculous.
You're just like, I don't want to learn this.
Yes. I printed it off and it was like super thick, and I was just looking at every exercise being like 2 pages long and overly complicated, and I was like, I'm not going to say what group it was, but I was just like, I'm not going to learn this. So I went somewhere else and worked out great.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just groups are getting ridiculous with that stuff.
And there's no time to work on exercises. Like, we talk about that someday in DCI. Like, these people have to work on these exercises, these long packets, these elaborate warm-ups. But, like, in indoor, there's no time to work on that
There's
stuff.
even less time.
I don't even remember our last season at Rhythm X playing
We didn't.
half.
None of them.
I think we played
None of them.
8 on a hand,
Eights.
rolls, and triple B, and that was it.
That's all the exercises we had.
Yeah. And we made up a molar exercise that Josh Ricky did not appreciate. Sorry, Josh.
And then I'm pretty sure Tim Jackson just put molar notes at the end of our show to spite Josh.
To justify us playing a molar exercise. Yep. He's like, you guys don't play molar. And then Tim put in the show, like, we play this now.
Whoops. Good times.
Second group I ever auditioned for would have been Tate's Creek Indoor. That was when they were in open class. I was a senior in high school. And that was pretty easy. That was a pretty simple audition because the guy who was like the battery caption head, Justin Fisher, was also the tech at our high school. So we had a pretty good understanding of what things were going to be like.
Your audition was all of your high school seasons.
Yeah, it's like he watched this all season, so he knew what we could do. And that worked out well. It was fun. It was like a great introduction. Going back and watching that show, that was like pretty comical. I mean, because the evolution of indoor shows has been pretty drastic from indoors inception, like when it started out in the late 90s. But even then, that show in 2007, it was just so basic. Like, we didn't do body movement. We didn't do all this. We just marched around and played. Like, there was no indoor, I guess, esque type of approach to it. We just marched in time, and then we played notes. And that was it.
The old bread and butter.
The old bread and butter.
I have an audition horror story, actually.
Oh, go for it.
I mean, it's not really anything that happened during the audition. It's more of the setting of the audition.
Okay.
So if anybody had ever auditioned for the Glassman before they folded, G West
me too.
is the name of an old condemned, mind you, school building.
I think they tore it down now.
It wouldn't surprise me. It probably wasn't safe to be in. An old condemned schoolhouse in, where were they out of?
Toledo.
Toledo, thank you. Toledo, Ohio. And obviously that's northern Ohio, so it's extremely cold in the winter during like the December camp, January camp, whatever. And I made it through the audition process all the way to the last round of cuts in January for the 2009 summer. The heat was broken in the dead of winter in an old school building.
With almost zero insulation. There's like broken windows.
Yes, with no insulation. So basically you're outside. And it was snowing a ton, well below 0 degrees. So like, not only were you trying to drum, but you were trying not to freeze to death. I remember one of the nights overnight, we had you have your sleeping bag and your air mattress, all that crap. I woke up in the middle of the night, and if it wasn't the part of my sleeping bag where I was laying and my body heat kept warm, it was like it was like in a freezer.
Yeah.
It was like I was laying on like frozen meat. It was terrible. And the showers were also all cold because the water heater was also not working.
That building turned me away from marching Glassman because I think I would have made it for the summer 2007, but I just remember one camp we went to G West for a camp, and they didn't have water. The water wasn't working. And it was like, it wasn't freezing cold that weekend, but we were like brushing our teeth with like bottled water because nothing else. Like, I couldn't take a shower all weekend. I was like, I don't want to spend a whole month here doing move-ins. This sounds terrible.
They do spring training there. Now, granted, it's not frigid cold, but it's really hot outside when that happens. So it's almost the polar opposite of awful. Yeah, that was probably the worst audition experience. I mean, the audition part of it was fine, but like everything wrapped around the audition experience was just miserable. Not good.
Yeah. That's the worst. That's probably my worst audition experience too. Just not even from a playing standpoint, but just like being there.
There were actually, I'm trying to think, there were a lot of people that you marched with at that Glassman audition process that year. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like half
Jackson
the
Landry. I'm pretty sure Jackson Landry, if anyone, obviously you marched with him. He's a Michigan guy, him and I think, were the last two cuts for that snare line in 09. I know everybody says that, but I ended up going to school with a snare tech, so I kind of figured that out for sure. Jackson and I were the last cuts there. I think Tony Felder was at that audition camp.
Probably.
All those Redline guys, I think, were all auditioning for Glassman in that season.
Well, it's right near them in Michigan.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But see here, auditions 2010 Rhythm X. That was stressful. That was a stressful audition.
I could see how that'd be the case.
I didn't even plan on going that year. I just got off tour with Crown. I guess I was just planning on going back to Tate's Creek for my 4th year at that point.
I think you made the right choice.
But my friend Dean, one of my good friends, he had marched in the quad line in 2009, and he went to Moorhead with us. And at that point, he had moved back home to Columbus. But he's like, dude, you should just come check it out. And then actually another guy who was auditioning for snare drum told me I should go too. He was like, yeah, man, just come. We'll go. It'll be great, blah, blah, blah. I know a lot of people there. Like, I knew Ted already, and I knew...
Lead Teeth.
Yeah, I knew Ted Leith, and then I knew Ben Thompson, and then like a couple other people who were going up from Kentucky. So I went to check it out, and it's just super stressful. Like, I'd never done anything like that. Like, even my drum corps auditions were not that stressful, just because you, like, see these people, and they're almost like superstars, like Tim Jackson. Like, he's still really well known, but at that time, he was just still, like, the I&E champion tenor god of
that was
the drumming world.
Still in his heyday.
Yeah. And so I was just like, man, this is like Tim Jackson and like Tim Fairbanks, and like these dudes like have their own sticks and stuff that I'm auditioning for. And it was just super stressful. I think the audition room for me was Tim Jackson, Tim Fairbanks, and I think also Josh was in there. So it was like 3 people.
I think Tim Fairbanks was it was Tim Fairbanks and Tim Jackson in 2011 that did my individual.
Tim Fairbanks is so funny because he's just so blunt. He'll just be like, "That was bad," or something, or try again.
I think we need to tell this story about the funniest.
I know where you're going.
Funniest individual audition story I've ever heard, and it happened. Do you know what year at Rhythm X it happened?
I want to say it was for 2009, but I'm not entirely sure.
So we're not going to name any names who it was. We know who it was, but we're not going to say who it was
or
give any indicator of who this person was. But
no, I won't elaborate on any nicknames or anything. But
it's awesome.
This person went in for their audition, their individual audition, because Rhythm X is similar to drum corps. Like, they give you an individual audition, and they also evaluate how you play in the group. But this person went in for their individual audition, and it can be a very nerve-wracking time. Like, you're playing in front of these big name people. You really want to make it. There's a lot of pressure.
And I'm pretty sure this was one of the first big auditions this kid had been to.
Yeah.
And I think he was kind of young. I think he was still in high school or something, like late high school possibly.
This person went on to become a great snare drummer, march drum corps, march high indoor groups. But at this point in his career had not really done a lot of things. So he's pretty green. He's very young. He's like one of those kind of high school kids that just goes with the aspirations of doing this, but probably at that point doesn't have a chance. So goes in to his individual audition, and he's nervous. The tech was telling Mike and I, he's like, you can tell he's very nervous, like kind of sweaty palms, handshaking type thing, like
shaky voice,
yeah. And they're pretty chill. They do a good job of just being like, hey, relax, just take a minute, collect yourself, catch your breath, just whenever you're ready, just go for it. So this kid brings his hands up to start playing and just freezes.
And Josh is like, his hands are visibly shaking at this point. Like, his hands and arms are visibly shaking. And he notices the kid starts to sweat.
Yeah.
Like
perspiration.
Like beads of, not just like a little shiny in the face, like beads of sweat rolling down the side of his face.
And so they say to him, hey man, just relax for a second, take a breath.
Take a deep breath,
Yeah, let your hands down. And then just whenever you're ready, just no pressure, man. Just do your thing. Just do as best you can, basically. Just kind of trying to pep talk him. So he goes to drum again, brings his hand set. Nothing happens. And I can't remember how many times exactly he said that this process, like they tried to tell him, like, just relax, man, just relax. But
at least 3 or 4.
He said the only volume of sound produced during that individual audition was like a single bead of sweat that fell from this kid's face and landed on the drum.
How do you keep, as a staff member, how do you keep a straight face? Because you feel bad for someone that's happening to. Because nerves are a real thing. He was in high school, like
performance
a junior
anxiety.
Like that's a thing. Like, how do you keep yourself from like? I don't want to say. I mean, bottom line, laughing.
Yeah.
Like just losing it. You have to have. Kudos to them for the self-control to like.
And I mean,
not
Josh
indirectly be an asshole.
When Josh told this story, he wasn't like making fun. He was just like, man, he wasn't making fun of this person. He was just like, yeah, that's probably like the biggest like audition story that just sticks out in my mind, like of somebody that just was not ready or not mentally prepared for that moment. And I guess what they ended up doing was just telling this person like, hey, it's all right. Don't worry about it. We'll come back to you. Just step out right now and we'll have you come back in and do it later when you feel a little bit more settled down or whatever. I don't think they ended up ever having them come back in.
I don't think they did either.
I mean, because at that point,
kid's
in
not
a group
ready
like that,
you don't want to put him through that again. Like, he obviously just lost his composure.
Yeah, but that's probably like the number one audition story that anytime somebody like starts talking about like auditions or funny or just crazy or just like, hey, check this out, listen to this one. That's the one that stands out, and I feel bad, but yeah.
That story reminds me of another little tidbit about auditioning. Don't be too stubborn, and what I mean by that is, if you're not quite at the level, like if you're younger, whatever, it's cool to go to a big group's audition because especially nowadays more so than before, they treat them as clinics, like educational clinics more than just let's see who doesn't suck. You know what I mean? And so you can learn a lot, but at the same time, like I've also known people waste 2-3 years of their eligibility continuously going to these top groups with no experience on their resume yet.
Yeah.
Very few people get to start at the top or close to the top.
I didn't in indoor. I marched 3 years of open class.
I marched a year of open class too. And then they just continuously waste year after year, and the staff is telling them like, go get drum corps experience for indoor or go to a lower drum corps before you come back here. Like, don't just go to Blue Coats every single year and just expect,
go to Rhythm X every year.
Yeah, like if you go and you don't make it, say, okay, especially if they tell you to go get some experience somewhere else. Don't be too proud to go march like Troopers, Colts, or like an open class indoor group would be an example of in that area.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to get that year of experience and use it as a stepping stone to get you to where you want to go.
And you'll have fun and you'll get better.
Exactly.
Like a lot of these open groups that are around us here, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They play well. They usually have people teaching there that have marched an upper level group.
Yep.
So they'll teach you how to play like these groups that you want to be in.
Yeah. Don't be too proud.
Yeah.
Do not be too proud.
For sure. Pride is a dangerous thing.
You can't get better until you're honest with yourself about how good you actually are or what you actually do know and don't know about something. So
I don't remember much, I guess, segueing back off that into like auditions. I don't remember too much about the 2011 audition from like a playing aspect. Like to me, obviously that was your first year, the audition for Rhythm X, but for me, like as a returning person, the only returning snare person, my audition was basically just try to get people come audition. Like that's all I was worried about. I didn't care about playing. I didn't try to learn a bunch of the exercises like blah blah blah. I was just like, I got all tour and like leading up to that I was like, I just gotta find people to fill the spots around me.
We were scrounging. That first camp, I think there were 5 of the 9 that ended up in that snare line only. It was that first camp.
The first camp, it was me, you,
Tom. Dan Poulter was there. Was he?
Dan Poulter, I think, was at the first one, and maybe like
Zach.
Was Joe there? Woody?
I don't know if Joe Woody was at the first camp that season.
There was like 4 or 5 of us.
Basically,
4 or 5 of the 9.
Even after the first camp weekend, Evan was still like calling people. Josh was, and just because they just wanted more talent.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to be the best that you can possibly be. You want to try to put together a group of people that will help you try to win.
Yeah.
And it was like that for a couple of the other sections too. Like the bases were set. They were
that baseline was.
Yeah, they were nasty. But the quads and the front ensemble, they were doing the same thing, just trying to find people that you knew had experience, that were really, really, really solid, great players to throw them in. And so I remember Tom came from, because he had marched United, and he kind of had that connection to like the East Coast. And so we're like, hey man, you
got any friends?
Got any friends like bring out? And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to these dudes. And so he had talked to Dan, Shaq, and Travis Peterman, who had marched like Cavaliers and Blue Stars and marched United indoor and stuff. And United hadn't had their audition yet, their second audition at least. And so they were like, he was like, dude, come to X, because we had our second audition before they did. And so they came and auditioned at X, and we contracted them right away. We're like, yeah, you're in. Like, you guys are good.
We set the whole snare line at that second camp.
Yeah, and then Matt Black came because he wasn't at the first audition camp, I don't think, either.
No, he video auditioned.
Yeah, because he sent in a video audition for the first one because he had some conflict, and then came to the second one. But that was, like, my audition experience that year was just trying to recruit people. And Josh trying to recruit people.
Okay. This leads me to a good place here. This just transitions well into being a vet at an audition and I've only experienced it once, because I only did Blue Stars 1 year, Blue Coats 1 year, Tate's Creek 1 year, and X was the only group I was in more than once. Is completely different than being a new member coming to a camp.
Yeah. And
just, I mean, if you mess up, you almost laugh at it. And I know that's kind of crappy to say, but I want to go into the audition, the first thing we did at X Auditions in 2012.
And so 7 of the 9 snare drummers from 11 came back to 12. So we had 7 snare vets. It was like the complete opposite from 11 to 12. Like we had, in 11 it was just me, and then in 12 it was all 7 of us.
Except the only 2 that didn't come back were the 2 that aged out.
The 2 that aged out.
Everybody that could come back came back, and it's a rare thing to have that happen. We were fortunate. But the first thing, and I think the staff did this knowing there were only a couple snare drum spots, and they kind of knew of a few guys that were coming already that were going to be the lead candidates for those couple spots. But they did like an American Idol style audition. Like nobody had warmed up. Nobody had been in individual practice like bass room, tenor room, snare room. They just put like the second bass drum on a stand on this auditorium stage at the school, a snare drum on a stand, and a set of tenors on a stand. And they didn't make you, and thankfully they didn't do this. I've heard stories for 09's audition, they made them play like the whole audition packet, or like complete exercises. They would just tell them on the spot, like, all right, play this, in front of everyone auditioning for the ensemble. So everyone you're competing against is sitting there in the auditorium, and you have to one at a time go up on stage in front of all the staff sitting in the front row, every drum tech, all the admin, everyone. And then everyone auditioning. So it's probably,
I think the pit was not in there.
Yeah, the front people were not in there. All the battery people.
Yeah.
And so there was some funny stuff that happened because nobody warmed up. Everyone's hands were cold.
Everybody's super cold. I think they did that just to kill time. They're like,
they did.
We just want to kill some time.
And they wanted to
also
laugh.
Be hilarious.
And it makes them sound a little bit of some dicks, but they kind of just wanted to see what would happen. And as a vet, you kind of just were like, okay, whatever, we'll just do this and get this out of the way. Even if I screw up, I don't care. And because we knew it didn't matter for us, basically. But there were some really good ones. So what they had us play was a roll, an open stroke roll, slow, fast, slow.
Yeah.
So you had to speed up and then slow down again, as well as fast or as slow as you wanted.
I remember my mindset was just like, don't play too fast. Don't try to play too fast. So you start off, you're doing your right, left, right, left, right, left, and then you slow back down. And I was like, just don't try to do too much, because like I just wanted to do it. I wanted to do what that was well. Like I didn't want to try to be the fastest person,
because you knew you didn't have to.
I knew I didn't have to.
All of us 7 should have known we didn't have to. Like I probably tried to get too fast, because I didn't march drum corps that summer, so I was like, they've cut a vet in the past, so I was a little more concerned than everybody else, but I screwed it up. I got fast. I sped up just fine, and I got fast, and my beads clicked. Like at the edge of the drum, I went out to the edge for whatever reason, reasons, and my beads clicked, and I stopped, and I just like looked for a second. Like I remember looking directly at Josh Brickey and like smiling, and then just coming back in and slowing down. But the worst one was Dan Shack.
Oh my gosh. We love you, Dan. But you know this was hilarious.
It was awesome. He had himself completely.
Dan Shack, center snare for Cavaliers 2011, just got off tour.
Winning a drum
trophy.
As the section leader.
And an amazing drum line. Gets up there, starts playing his slow, fast, slow. Everything starts out all right.
Yep.
Whatever. Starts speeding up. Goes out to the edge for whatever reason. Like, who knows. Gets out to the edge. Plays a couple notes on the rim because he's too far pushed out. And, like, then he tries to come back on the drum.
I think he clicked his sticks together at some point, too, and, like, stopped for a second. And
buzzes out the roll, and then just, like,
I heard a couple presses in there, too.
Then just starts slowing back down. And we're all just, like, we're just laughing out there. Like, oh, did this really just happen? Tom did his was so well thought out. He just did meter changes.
Yeah, he didn't speed up. He just metrically modulated to faster rhythms and then modulated back
triplets,
down.
16ths, sextuplets, and then went back down. I was
like every 8 counts, he changed the rhythm.
That was smart. That's awesome.
This is not what they asked you to do.
And it was served no purpose either because
you're not seeing how good or bad somebody is at drumming. Having them do that cold.
Some of the best people who did it had no shot of making
that Japanese kid.
Yeah, the Japanese kid. Or what? I don't know if he's Japanese.
He was the 4th best roll we heard all day.
He got so fast, and then we were all just cheering, because it was so funny. We were clapping. We're like, "Yeah, man, that was great." And
no one knew who he was.
Yeah,
just some tall, skinny. I think he was Japanese.
He's Asian.
So.
I don't know.
I think he was Japanese. I don't remember.
That sounds racist, but I just don't know what ethnicity what he was.
But he was really good. Then there was somebody auditioning for bass drum. Again, we're not going to name names here.
Yes, I forgot about this.
Did not get off on the right foot as they came up on stage. I'll let you take this over because you tell it better than I do.
Did not get off on the right foot and did not get off on the right hands either. So obviously, if you're playing an open stroke roll, there's 2 notes on each hand. Right, and then you start left.
I believe you're right. That is
correct.
I don't think that's changed.
But this person gets up to audition, and before, they're not even 3 notes into it, and so you play your first 2 rights. You expect to hear a left. All of a sudden, this person, I almost put a disclaimer, but I almost called him out. This person plays 3 notes on the right hand. That's 1 too many.
It's just not a double stroke roll.
Right. Stop.
There's ways to recover from that. You could have just gone, because it was so slow, you could just go right, left, left, and just come back in. Nope, the person just froze.
The person's brain was not thinking that fast.
They knew they had played the wrong thing,
and at this point,
stood there.
They knew they messed up.
It was at that moment.
Yeah.
They realized. It was a bass drummer, and nobody that wasn't the 5 guys they already knew who the bass line was making that bass line.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
that was a really funny one too that year.
I'm convinced the staff just wanted to laugh. They just wanted to see what would happen.
It is a huge pressure thing. You see who's going to fall under pressure.
And Tim Jackson has done stuff like that before. I remember we learned a little sample of body movement in 2011 during auditions, and we learned the whole sequence or whatever. We're doing it as a group, and Tim just all right, guys, who wants to do it by themselves in front of the whole group? And so I raised my hand, Evan raised his hands, a bunch of people did. He looked around the room, everybody that raised their hand, and he goes, okay, I just wanted to see who'd raise their hand. And didn't make anyone do it in front of the whole group. They do mind games, pressure situation, things like that, just to see where your head's
at. Who's going to step up?
That was I'd never seen anyone do that at that point in the audition. I was like, that's really smart.
Well, Tim's also really smart.
He's flipping houses now, isn't he?
I don't know.
Does he even teach anywhere
he's
besides
doing smart things?
X
when he's a smart person.
That's fair. That's a fair way to put it.
But yeah, auditions in that 2012 season, we pretty much knew we were either going to go 8 or we were either going to go 9 because we had so many snare vets, or 10 because we had so many people who were really good show up to audition.
And it was unfortunate because there were a handful of people that showed up that if it had been a different year where we didn't have 7 vets, they might have made it. I can think of 2 or 3 people that would have had a really good shot probably any other year than that season.
I think that year we could have had 2 7 or 8 man snare lines out of that audition talent that could have competed at a world level.
Probably.
there was that many people. It was like at least 14 to 15 people deep.
Yep.
With, like,
They
really
cut 4 or
talented
5
players.
people that otherwise, like I said, would have probably been in that snare line.
They cut a kid
other
that we
season.
both know that marched like 3 years of drum corps. He had marched Blue Stars.
I was worried that because the 3 new guys we ended up with were Andy Alfred, Dick, Richard E. Thorne, and Frankie Cummins. There's no G in his name, right? Or is it Cummings?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Frankie.
Frank the Tank. And all 3 of them are better than I am, and were at the time too. So
they all just got off tour.
They all just marched. I didn't march that 2011 summer. I just saved money and worked and stuff, and I chose to do indoor in 2011 instead of march again that summer. But so there were thoughts in my head at one point where I was like, they've cut a vet before from this group, and if they do that, they might, you know what I mean? Like if it's, I remember you sent a text message out to the group, and you were like, you asked all the vets, do you want to go 9 or 10? And I said, I specifically said 9 unless it means cutting a vet, because I knew that might have been me if that was the case. So I said 9, but if we're going to cut a vet to do it, 10. Because I didn't want any of us 7 that did it last year to not be in it if we wanted to be in it that year.
Yeah.
So I never found out what everybody else. I'm pretty sure most everybody else said 10 or something along the same lines, because nobody wanted any of us.
Almost everyone said 10. I remember that text sending it out. I think there was like one person that said 9, but we ended up going 10 because we just had the numbers, we had the people, so
yep.
And it worked out. It was great. It was a great snare line. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. Auditions are a fun time. It's stressful for people auditioning, but it's fun for the vets too.
Because there's no like stress or weight on really anything. You're basically in the group unless like it's a weird circumstance, or unless you were just bad, which has happened.
Yeah.
There have been people that have not been great all season, and they come back and the staff is just like, we're not going to take it again. That doesn't happen very often though at all.
I think more often than not, like when a vet gets cut, it's not because of like a playing thing. It's like some other issue, like
personality,
like you have just been like a terrible member, or like you owe us a lot of money.
Money can be, especially with indoor, money can be a big thing.
The indoor audition is like way more organized though now. I feel like just in general, like Gorps are made way more organized. I know Rhythm X is by far more organized.
Rhythm X got way more organized as soon as a man by the name of Mike Scott aged out of the front ensemble in 2012 and became like the head administrator.
He's like the CEO now or something, but he just
I think
organizes everything. And
that dude saved that ensemble. There's no doubt in my mind that ensemble probably wouldn't exist anymore if Mike Scott if the staff members hadn't had the foresight to say, we need a really organized person that can handle all this admin stuff. Hey, Mike, you live in Dayton.
Andrew Markworth saved it in 2012 and got us over the hump, and then Mike just took over and like organized everything so well. And like they have like the X Academy, and they have all these connections with stuff, and he does the stuff for Blue Coats and back and forth, and just it's been really, really positive for them, for that organization.
I just thought of something I didn't say earlier.
We'll say it now.
Have a good pair of sticks.
Have a good pair of sticks. Oh yeah.
All 3 indoor auditions I've been at, every drum corps audition I've been at some point, the snare tech or the caption head or somebody comes into the snare room, and when they have people play stuff down the line individually, if you're like an exercise phrase or a phrase of music or whatever, have a good pair of sticks, because it never fails that at some point there's some young kid, or even not a young kid, a college kid sometimes, it just hasn't marched anywhere yet, playing with a god-awful, hollow, probably partially broken pair of sticks, and the caption head or tech will have them play something, and it sounds just awful. And he comes up and picks the sticks up and goes, oh God. He goes, guys, you have to set yourself up for success by having a good implement. Like, you're not going to show up to a trumpet audition with a beat-up, rusty, terrible trumpet. It's the same thing. And if you don't know how to pick a good pair of sticks, the higher the pitch when you tap it on the side of your head is pretty much a good default. It can vary a little bit.
That's usually that's
my indicator.
My indicator. If it's higher pitched, it's because the wood is a little bit denser. It's going to have better rebound. Now, that's not always true, but I'd say 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, just pick the pair of sticks up, tap it on the side of your head. If it's a high pitch, that stick, you're probably in the ballpark.
Yeah, it's gonna rebound better for you.
Of a decent pair of sticks.
But
that's just a little tidbit that just came to me. I feel like I have to
advice.
Public service announcement. Have a good pair of sticks.
I have that happen with my high school kids. Like I'll come up and like,
oh yeah,
like what are you doing? Like why are you doing this? And I'll grab their sticks from them to like play, and I'm like, oh no wonder these sound terrible and they feel awful. So
and to us at this point, I'm sure I played with my fair share of bad sticks just because I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't have any chops, didn't have any know-how, so I didn't know that. I just thought I was a bad, weak player, you know. So it's a little bit of, you get better at it the more you play and the better and stronger you get as a player. But just by default, high pitched, you're good to go typically.
Yep. So I guess that's kind of like our audition rundown. Like, don't be afraid to get in there, throw down, drum, be confident. Don't be overly aggressive towards trying to hang out with everyone.
Yeah, just do your thing.
Learn your stuff.
Because if you're good, the vets will gravitate towards you.
Yeah.
They'll notice when they're not on a drum and they're on pads letting everybody else get on a drum. They're looking around the room watching everybody play when that happens.
Yeah, I was doing like reconnaissance. Like while I'm auditioning, like I'm sitting here looking around like, all right, who can drum? Like who's good? All right.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Well, hopefully we were supposed to have a friend of ours, center quad player Andrew Kane, on for the 7th episode, but he's been teaching DCA for a few weekends.
Yeah, he's been working
with
cadets
weekend
too.
Is their championships, right?
I think it was
September
last night.
2nd, 3rd, whatever weekend. So hopefully, because he lives in Kentucky, he was a center quad for the cadets. Hopefully we'll get him to sit down with us in a week or two here for the 8th episode and kind of give us a window into what that summer was like.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got some interesting stories and some insight that most people you won't really get unless you're in his position. So make sure, as always, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/agedoutpodcast. Look us up on Instagram, just Aged Out Podcast, no spaces. We will see everybody in a few weeks.
All right, peace out, guys.